I just want to start things off by saying that this isn't necessarily my story, but my mom's story instead. This story happened to her well over 10 years ago when we were moving houses. It's worth mentioning that the events that took place happened on the last day while we were moving out. Every time my mom retells this story to me or anyone else, it always freaks her out and makes her very uncomfortable, which you'll soon learn why. We were moving houses as my stepdad's mom was wanting to move back into that house. We had moved up from California to Montana and we had nowhere to stay or move our stuff to. My stepdad's mom, however, was generous and decided to give the house she was living in to us and would go move down to Helena for a year with her husband. She then would allow my parents a year to find a house and move there, as she wanted to have her house back after that. It's also worth noting that the house was a huge area of property with barbed wire fence surrounding most of it. The part that creeped me out when I lived there was that the house was surrounded by forest that seemed to go on for miles. So fast forward a year, my parents were fortunate to find a house not too far from where we originally lived. It took us 2 days to move everything out of the old house and into the new one. On the second/last day is when everything happened. My mom and my stepdad were going back to the house to grab the last of the stuff that was there and to lock the place up. They got there and my stepdad told my mom that he would be in the outdoor garage if she needed anything. My mom had said okay and made her way into the house. A quick description of the house as it's important to the story. There are 2 entry-exit points of the house. The first is in the front of the house and the second is in the back. If you were to enter from the front door, you'd be in the living room. If you were to walk for a little bit and turn right, there's a mini corridor with 3 rooms. The room on the left was my brother's room, the middle one was the bathroom, and the one on the right was mine. If you were to keep going straight after coming in the front door, you'd be in the laundry room and there was the back door which led outside.
If you were to turn right before entering the laundry room, there's the stairs which leads upstairs. Upon going upstairs, if you turn left, there's another mini corridor with 2 rooms on opposite sides. The bathroom was on left side and my parents' bedroom was on the right. If you turn right after going upstairs, there was the kitchen on the right side of the room and the dining area on the left side. There was also a balcony nearing the dining room that overlooks the front yard. My mom had gone through all the rooms downstairs to ensure that she didn't miss anything. She eventually makes her way upstairs and begins going through all the rooms. She's in the kitchen grabbing the last few things when she hears it. She heard what she said was this slow, heavy footsteps downstairs. The footsteps made its way up the stairs until it stopped at the last step. My mom then heard my dad's voice say loud and clear to her, "I don't think that's a good idea." My mom paused for a moment and stood there in confusion. She asked him what's not a good idea, but was met with no response. She asked again, but there was no response. She starts getting annoyed, thinking he's messing with her, so she goes over to the stairs. She makes it to the stairs, only to see that nobody was there. She was confused for a moment, but that confusion and annoyance had quickly turned into fear and dread. My mom stood there at the top of the stairs, not knowing what to do. She goes back to what she was doing when she hears the back door open and close. At first, she thought it was my stepdad leaving, but soon realized how could he make it downstairs with 0 noise. She heard the same slow, heavy footsteps coming up the stairs again. She went to go look and had saw that my stepdad was there and was coming up the stairs. My stepdad tells my mom that he just finished grabbing the rest of his tools from the outdoor garage and was ready to go. My mom looked at him and asked him what's not a good idea. My stepdad stared at her dumbfounded. She asked him the same question again and he replied with, "What are you talking about?"
My mom explained the footsteps she heard and had heard his voice asking that same question. My stepdad said he wasn't in the house at all until a minute ago. He said he was outside the whole time grabbing his stuff and locking up the garage. My mom was at a loss for words and was beginning to feel nervous too. My mom swore up and down that she thought my stepdad was there and heard his voice. My stepdad had reassured her that it wasn't him and that she was probably tired from staying up the night before and from how stressed she was. A few moments later is when everything had went from weird to downright horrifying. Shortly after my stepdad finished talking, the kitchen lights started flickering, the chandelier in the dining room started swaying back and forth, the bathroom door slammed shut, and all of the cabinet doors violently swung open at the same time. The cabinet doors then slammed shut, which was then followed by a loud crashing noise that came from the bedroom. My parents went to go check it out and had saw that the ceiling fan had fallen to the ground. At that point, my mom was so shaken up that she looked at my stepdad and said that they need to leave now, that she's done and doesn't want to be there anymore. They grabbed the last of their stuff and hurried downstairs. When they got downstairs, they saw my old bedroom door open and slam shut on its own. My parents had gone out the back door and threw the stuff they had in their car. My mom went back inside to grab the last of the stuff from downstairs and heard the bedroom door upstairs being slammed shut repeatedly. She got the last of the stuff, locked up the house, and sped out of there without looking back. My mom firmly believes that someone or something was in that house that wanted them out of there. I have a few theories about that house and what went on that day. My first theory is that the entity haunting that house is probably a mimic due to it copying my stepdad's voice. My other theory is that it was likely either a skinwalker or a wendigo, since our house was on Native American land and we did live on a reservation next to a huge forest. I've told some people this story and some believe the same thing that I said. Others believe that it was some other spirit that liked our company and was upset that day and caused everything to happen due to us leaving. My mom had also told me that she had witnessed unexplained things when we lived there. She told me that she had woken up in the middle of the night to footsteps on the balcony and even footsteps on the roof. She's heard the front door open and closed and thought it was either me or my brother, only to go check and find that both of us were asleep. She's even seen the bedroom door open on its own, only to see that nobody was there. My mom also believes that someone or something was there always watching us, which made her feel that there was something wrong with the house. I'm glad that we're out of that house and never have to deal with it again. Where is the blood coming from? I'm a longtime lurker here and thought I would share something that happened to my parents about 30 years ago. I'm a huge fan of paranormal stories. I love trying to rack my brain for explanations. But this story has always stumped me, my parents, both skeptics, and anyone they've shared it with. So I'd love to hear if anyone else has experienced something like this or has a reasonable explanation for it.
In 1995, my parents lived in Bangalore, India for about a year due to a contract job my dad had found there. It was meant to be a temporary gig, so when his office offered them a duplex apartment to rent, they gladly took it. It came with the usual perks of upper middle class India, i.e. a couple of bustling maids that took care of the cleaning, groceries, and most of the cooking. Life was bliss for them, a childless, almost newly married couple with basically everything taken care of. At the time, my mom wasn't working, so she stayed at home while my dad went to work. On their floor, there was another apartment with an older woman living in it, who she politely said hello to a few times, but she always looked at my mom a bit strangely, and that made her a bit uncomfortable. On their third or fourth interaction, the older woman asked her, "Are you okay living in that flat?" To which my mom had probably nodded, and she asked her again, "Do you not sense anything?" Which was a confusing question to my mom, but the woman didn't explain further. Eventually, she started telling Mom to not stay there by herself whenever she ran into her, and my mom thought maybe she was just a bit confused and paranoid, maybe due to her age. On some random sunny and cool morning at around 8 a.m., everything was normal. One of the maids had just mopped the floor, my mom and my paternal grandmother, who was visiting them briefly, were in the kitchen, and my dad was in the living room on one of the armchairs reading the newspaper.
The setup was such that there were 2 armchairs with a small table in the middle for the landline phone and a large balcony with sliding doors to the left if you were sitting on one of the chairs. The phone rang. My mom picked it up, and it was a relative calling them to break the news that my maternal great-grandmother had passed away. She was over 90 and had passed due to natural causes. My mom was very close to her grandmother, so she was naturally quite upset. She then handed the receiver to my dad to also speak to whoever was calling them. When he stretched his arm to take it, a big drop of something that looked like blood fell on the floor. Then another smaller drop fell after that, then another and another, until it finally stopped near the sliding doors, skipping my dad's feet. They describe it as the kind of blood you'd see if you cut your wrist open. After speaking and hanging up the phone, both of them stared at each other in absolute confusion. The maid had just cleaned the floors, neither of them were cut anywhere, the ceiling had no leaks. Then what just happened? Even though they were skeptics, they could not find a single reasonable explanation to what that was. The maid, who was still around, refused to go anywhere near it, so it stayed. Eventually, the blood dried up and turned brownish and powdery. With time, they had to stop dwelling on whatever that was, and their lives went back to normal. My mom, a little confused and concerned, took the old woman's advice and would now spend her afternoons at a nearby library. My dad would meet her there on the way back from work, and then they'd come home together. Months passed, and this incident had been pushed aside almost entirely. It was their last night in that house. The following morning, they would catch an early flight and leave Bangalore for good. They were both in their bedroom, packing and organizing for the trip. My mom accidentally dropped something on the ground, and when she went to pick it up, it was action replay. The exact same thing happened again. One big drop followed by smaller drops, skipping her hand. This time, it freaked them out to the point of them considering a hotel for the few hours they had left in that house. They left Bangalore without any explanation for it.
The next young couple that was scheduled to move in there were also friends of my parents, contracted by the same company. They were even bigger skeptics and paid no heed to anything my parents told them, and so they moved in. On some night, the wife woke up thirsty in the middle of the night and walked downstairs to the kitchen to get some water. When she was on her way back up the stairs, the same thing happened. With every step she took, a drop of blood fell next to her foot, and then another and another. It scared her tremendously, and she had an epileptic seizure and fell. The sound woke her husband up, and he came running and helped her back to bed. She was eventually fine. In the morning, however, the husband was convinced that it was some kind of practical joke. He scraped up the blood, now dried, using some stiff cardboard, and put it in a tiny bottle to get it tested at a lab on the way to work. When he stepped out of the building, he hailed an auto rickshaw, or auto for short, a three-wheeler, also called a tuk-tuk elsewhere, and got in. The second he got in, the auto somehow lost all control. The auto spun 360 degrees, flung him and his office bag out. The driver was fine, but the husband had a broken arm, and the tiny bottle couldn't be found anywhere, even though it was in a deep pocket in his zipped office bag. There are a few smaller instances from this apartment, but this is quite long already, so I'll close it here. Lastly, the apartment still exists, and we've passed by it several times during our trips to Bangalore. I bought a pet cam to watch my dog when I'm out. I think someone's been stalking me through it. I'm writing this from my phone on the floor of my hallway, with my dog shaking against my leg and someone trying keys in my laundry door. If this cuts out mid-sentence, that's probably the moment they get in. The tapping on the window stopped a few minutes ago. The doorbell finally went quiet, but whoever's out there just tried the front door, then the side gate, and now I can hear metal scraping against the lock at the back. The worst part isn't that someone's trying to break in. The worst part is they shouldn't need a key, but it sounds like they have one. And if I'm right about who it is, he's been inside my house already. He's been inside for weeks. This started at the dog park. I go to the same one most mornings with my dog, Rocket. big off-leash space with a scrappy little tree line and a strip of woods that looks way creepier than it has any right to in daylight. The day I met him, it was stupidly normal. Blue sky, coffee, and a keep cup, the usual "what breed is he?" small talk from strangers. Rocket was doing his zoomy routine in circles, and I was half on my phone, half pretending to be a functioning adult.
"Is that a camera to watch your dog?" The voice came from over my shoulder. I turned and this guy was standing there. Maybe late 30s, hoodie, beanie, that kind of face you'd forget if it weren't for the eyes. Too pale, too still. He nodded at my phone. On the lock screen, I had a little thumbnail from my pet cam app. I use it to check on Rocket when I'm out. "Yeah," I said. "Helps with the separation anxiety." His mouth twitched. "Yours or his?" I laughed politely because that's what you do when strangers are slightly weird. He had a dog with him too, some kelpie mix going absolutely feral on a tennis ball. We did the dog park intro handshake. Names, ages, he's usually not this crazy, I swear. His name was Liam, or at least that's what he said. He asked a few too specific questions. "So you work from home? You must, right? I always see you here around this time." I shrugged it off. "Freelance, flexible hours." He smiled like that confirmed something for him. We talked for maybe 15 minutes. It wasn't awful, a bit intense, but I've met worse at that park. Only right at the end did it get off. Rocket ran over because he'd heard his baby voice tone, and I did what I always do without thinking. I leaned down and scritched his chest in that silly way I always do in the kitchen when no one's around, saying, "Who's my little man?" "Ah, that thing you do in the kitchen." I straightened up. "What?" He watched me, too closely. "You always do that in the hallway, right by the laundry. You say it the same way." There was a long, empty silence between us. The park was suddenly very loud with other dogs barking. "I mean," he said, way too late to be casual, I assumed. You look like the type." "What type? The type talks to their dog in the hallway?" I forced a laugh because I didn't know what else to do. "Yeah, I guess." But it stuck in my head in that weird way that only wrong things do. You know when your brain files something under "this is important, but we don't know why yet"? Yeah, that. A few days later, I got an email from the pet cam company. "We've detected a login from a new device. If this wasn't you, we recommend changing your password." The location was listed as another suburb on the other side of town, about 20 minutes away. I told myself it was a glitch, or one of their servers. Companies screw that stuff up all the time, right? I clicked through, got to the change password screen, got distracted by Rocket bringing me a squeaky toy, and thought, I'll do it later. I didn't. That's the part that keeps repeating in my head now, like a taunt. You had one job. The first time I thought I saw him again was at the park. I was mid-conversation with another dog owner, laughing about how their pug was bullying a German shepherd, when something over their shoulder snagged my attention. In the tree line, just beyond the off-leash boundary, someone was standing half-hidden behind a trunk. Just standing, wearing a dark hoodie, head tilted like he was listening. I blinked, and the person was gone, vanished back into the strip of trees. "You okay?" the other owner asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Thought I saw someone I knew." I told myself it was nothing, just some jogger cutting through, or my brain filling in shapes. I've got anxiety. I know my imagination can posture like a heavyweight. But then it happened again. I came out of the pet supply shop one afternoon, arms full of overpriced treats, when I saw him across the street at the mouth of a narrow alley. Same hunched shoulders, same beanie pulled low. He didn't move like surprise or guilt or anything normal. He just stepped backwards, slowly, like he'd expected me to walk out at that exact moment and was already in reverse. By the time I could cross the street, he was gone. Coincidence,
I muttered to myself the whole walk home. You're just spiraling, it's fine. That night, when I checked the pet cam app from bed out of habit, the little light on the camera in the living room blinked on. It does that when you open the app. You see the live view, the light comes on, everything behaves like it should. Except this time, there was a delay. The stream went black for a second, then static, then my own living room slowly came into focus. The camera's angle was slightly off, too low, like someone had bumped it. Rocket lifted his head from his bed and let out this soft, warning growl. I checked the app. No one else was logged in, just my account. I told myself the camera had just glitched, reset, something. I told myself that a lot. The thing with the spare key happened the week after. I managed to lock myself out, taking the rubbish out. Door swung shut behind me. Classic. No phone, no wallet, just me and the wheelie bin like an idiot. I keep a spare key for the laundry side door in an old pot near the back fence. I've used it a dozen times over the years. Except this time, when I dug through the dirt, it wasn't there. I pulled the whole pot out, checked the soil, the ground around it, the little crack in the fence where I sometimes jam junk mail. Nothing. I ended up having to climb in through a window I'd left latched but not locked, scratched the hell out of myself and scared Rocket half to death. I told myself I must have moved the key and forgotten. People forget things. Later that night, sitting on the couch, I got a notification. Person spotted in laundry. I don't have a pet cam set up in that room. No reason my phone should ever use those words. The notification vanished before I could tap it, just blinked away like a typo, reality corrected in front of me. I checked the pet cam. The little light was already on. I swear on my dog's life, the camera moved. Just a tiny adjustment, like someone had put it back where it was supposed to be. By the time I saw him a third time, I'd stopped telling myself it was a coincidence. I was unloading groceries from the car and it was getting dark, that blue hour where everything has soft edges. Rocket was inside, barking his head off because I'd left him behind the baby gate. Across the road is another little stretch of trees. Nothing dramatic, just enough scrub to make it feel like we back onto something natural, according to the real estate brochure. I shut the boot and turned with an armful of bags and froze. Someone was standing between the trees. Not moving, just watching the house. The same absent posture, the same tilt to the head. "Oi!" I yelled before I could think. "Can I help you?" They didn't run. They didn't even flinch. They just stepped sideways into shadow and disappeared. When I got inside, Rocket was staring at the living room camera, a low growl rattling his chest. The light on the pet cam was already on. That brings us back to tonight. I finally decided to do the sensible thing. New password, two-factor authentication, all that. I sat down after dinner, opened my email to find the original warning, and saw a new one sitting on top of it. Sent 30 minutes ago. Your password has been changed. If this wasn't you, please contact support immediately. I hadn't changed anything. My heart did that horrible cold plunge. I grabbed my phone and opened the PetCam app. It logged in without asking for a code, straight in, because I was already verified, I guess. The live feed popped up. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was my living room, but the angle was wrong again. Higher up, tilted slightly. I realized the camera must have been moved closer to the hallway. Rocket appeared in the frame, pacing, looking from side to side. The audio hissed softly. Underneath the hiss was something else. Breathing. And not Rocket's. Slow, too close to the microphone, like someone was leaning right over the camera. I stared at the screen trying to rationalize it, and that's when the porch light flicked on by itself. In the pet cam feed, the wash of light hit the front door. I hadn't touched the switch. Then, tap. Not on the screen, in real life, on my actual window. I turned my head so fast my neck crunched. Another tap, this time on the glass by the front door. Then a louder one. Rocket went ballistic, sprinting back and forth, nails skidding on the floorboards. The doorbell rang. Not a normal, impatient ring, just a single, cheerful chime. Then silence. Then another, like someone was pressing it with the patience of a person who already knows you're home. I put the phone down and crept to the door, staying to the side like every horror movie has taught me. I peered through the side gap in the curtain. No one on the porch, but across the road in the tree line, he was there.
Hoodie, beanie, head tilted in that same listening pose. He lifted one arm and slowly, almost lazily waved. I dropped the curtain. The doorbell rang again, long and shrill this time. Rocket whined, backing up toward the hallway. My phone buzzed. I looked down. New device added. Guest. Live view. On. The pet cam light in the living room flared, washing the doorway in that cold little LED glow. From further down the house, near the back, I heard it. The metallic clunk of a key sliding into a lock. The laundry door. For a second, I couldn't move. My body just shut down like my brain had yanked the breaker switch. Then the key turned. It was such a normal sound, familiar. I've done it 1,000 times myself. That's what made it worse, the ordinary click of someone who belongs here. The door creaked open. Rocket stopped barking. He went very still, ears flat, staring down the hall toward the laundry. A low whine leaked out of him, the kind dogs make at the vet. The Petcam app on my phone switched feeds. I didn't touch it. It cut from the live view of the living room to a different angle I'd never seen before. My hallway. From behind me. There's no camera there. On the screen, I saw the back of my own head, my shoulders, Rocket pressed against my leg. And at the end of the hall, the open mouth of the doorway to the laundry. Nothing but blackness beyond it. Something moved in that darkness, just a fragment of pale, like knuckles resting on the doorframe, like someone leaning just out of sight. The audio crackled, and a voice came through the phone speaker, too close to the mic, almost inside my ear. I told you, you always do that in the hallway when you're scared. My hand is shaking so hard it's hard to type this. The doorbell just rang again, once like punctuation. Rocket is staring at the phone now, not the hallway. His tail is curled tight under him. Whoever is in the laundry just started walking. I can hear the bare, slow footsteps on the tiles, heading for the wooden boards, heading for me. The Petcam light just went out, but the breathing in the speaker didn't.